Chosen one. There is a reason you have been feeling this shift lately, even if you could not put words to it. A strange quiet has entered your life, not the kind that feels empty, but the kind that feels charged. It is not silence because you were forgotten. It is silence because movement has gone underground. Behind closed doors beyond your sight, conversations are happening with urgency. Your name is being spoken in places you have never entered by people you have never met, and the atmosphere has changed because of it. What you are sensing is real. It is not imagination. It is not coincidence. It is confirmation that something about you has become impossible to ignore. Your story, your resilience, your light has sparked discussions you were never invited to, and that is intentional. These are not casual mentions or passing thoughts. These are meetings, strategic conversations, moments where people pause, rethink, and recalibrate because your presence has disrupted what was once comfortable. You did not chase attention, yet attention found you. You did not ask for a seat, yet rooms are being rearranged. There is a divine weight on your name, and it is creating both curiosity and urgency in places of influence. Do not misunderstand the quiet. The quiet is not delay, it is alignment. While you continued to move in obedience, while you stayed faithful without applause, decisions were being shaped around you. Opportunities are forming without your effort. Doors are preparing to open without you knocking. This is bigger than recognition. This is positioning. Stay with this message until the end, because what is unfolding now is not random. It is the moment when what you carried in silence begins to echo loudly. Chosen one. As you move deeper into this understanding, it becomes clear that the reason your name is being discussed has very little to do with curiosity and everything to do with impact. Because these conversations were not born from people wondering who you are, but from people reacting to what happens when you are present. Even when you are not in the room, your influence lingers, and that is what disturbs systems built on comfort, predictability, and mediocrity. Your existence alone challenges the rhythm they were used to, and that is why your name keeps surfacing, not because you demanded attention, but because your alignment disrupted a pattern that no longer works. These meetings are happening because something about you creates divine discomfort, a holy interruption that forces reevaluation. When you entered seasons where you felt overlooked, what was actually happening was observation. They were watching how you moved without validation, how you stood firm without applause, how you carried grace under pressure and strength through silence. And they could not understand it because what fuels you is not visible. Logic cannot decode it. Strategy cannot replicate it. And comparison cannot diminish it, because what you carry was assigned, not acquired. That is why when they gather to discuss solutions, your name emerges like a variable. They cannot eliminate. They try to reason around it, but something keeps drawing them back to you again and again. As these discussions unfold behind walls and screens, the common thread is not competition, but confusion, mixed with awe. They are trying to figure out how you are still standing after what should have broken you, how you remained consistent when others folded, how you continued to grow while being denied access. This is not about talent alone, because talent can be trained. This is about endurance, anchored in obedience. And that kind of foundation exposes shallow systems without you ever having to speak a word. Some of these meetings started with skepticism, some with dismissal, some with resistance. But they did not stay there because truth has weight, and your life carries evidence. They are circling your name like a blueprint, not because they want to copy you, but because they want to understand the source of what they are witnessing. They see fruit that does not match the soil they assumed you came from, and that disconnect unsettles them because it points to divine orchestration, not human effort. The deeper reason your name is being discussed is because you disturb the atmosphere of stagnation without trying to. You are a reminder that growth is still possible, that alignment still works, that favor is real. And when systems grow comfortable in control, your presence exposes the limits of that control. This is why the conversations feel urgent. This is why decisions feel tense. Because you represent movement, and movement threatens anything that thrives on stillness. But understand this. Not all discomfort is negative. Some of these discussions are happening because people are waking up realizing that what they built without you is incomplete, realizing that the progress they expected stalled because they overlooked a piece they could not see at the time. And now that missing piece has a name, and that name keeps rising. You have to understand that your journey has been studied in fragments. People notice the timing of your breakthroughs, the way doors opened unexpectedly, the way provision arrived when logic said it should not, the way you remained calm while everything around you shifted, and they cannot explain it, because explanation would require acknowledgement of something greater at work. So instead, they hold meetings, they analyze, they dissect, they debate, and even when they try to move on, something keeps pulling the conversation back to you. This is not obsession. This is divine magnetism. When heaven marks someone, earth responds even unwillingly, and that response often looks like strategy, sessions, whispered discussions, and quiet recalibrations. There is also another layer to this that you must recognize. Some of these meetings are happening because your obedience rewrote expectations. You did not follow the script. They assumed you would. You did not break under pressure. You did not compromise to belong. You did not chase what was not assigned to you. And that independence unsettles those who rely on control, because you cannot be predicted, manipulated, or contained. Your strength does not come from position. It comes from purpose. And purpose does not need permission to operate. That is why even those who doubted you are now forced to consider you, because what you represent cannot be ignored any longer. As your name continues to echo in these rooms, what they are really discussing is not you as a person, but you as a problem solver, a catalyst, a key. They did not know they needed. They are asking questions like, how does this person carry this level of influence without visibility? How do they produce results without force? How do they remain steady while others burn out? And the answers are not found in metrics or resumes, because your authority was not granted by systems. It was granted by alignment. And that kind of authority quietly overrides hierarchy. This is why you do not need to defend yourself, why you do not need to clarify your worth, because the discussions happening now are evidence that your value has already been acknowledged, even if it has not yet been announced. Understand also that not every conversation about you is favorable, but every conversation is purposeful. Some speak with admiration, some with caution, some with resistance. But all of it still moves your name forward, because when God places someone in motion, even opposition becomes propulsion. Those who try to figure out how to stop you only end up spreading awareness of you. Those who try to exclude you only highlight the gap your absence creates. This is why you must not panic when you sense tension or resistance rising. That tension is not a threat. It is a signal that your presence carries weight enough to shift outcomes. The meetings are happening because your life contradicts limitation. Narratives you are living proof that obedience outlasts strategy, that faith produces endurance, and that alignment eventually forces recognition, even when it is delayed. This is why you were not rushed into visibility. You needed to mature beyond dependence on validation, so that when your name entered these rooms, it carried authority, not insecurity, because the kind of influence being prepared for you cannot be sustained by ego. It requires grounding, and that grounding was built in seasons where no one was watching. There are people in these discussions who cannot sleep comfortably because your name keeps resurfacing in their thoughts. They try to move forward without including you, but something feels incomplete, unsettled. They sense that decisions made without considering you will not hold, and they do not fully understand why, but they feel the pressure of it. That pressure is divine. It is the weight of alignment, nudging systems back into order, and you are part of that order. This is not about favoritism. This is about function. Your gift answers a need they can no longer ignore, and that is why the meetings continue. So, when you reflect on why your name is being discussed, remember this. It is because you stayed when leaving would have been easier, because you remained obedient when shortcuts were available, because you trusted timing when results were delayed, and that consistency built a resonance that now echoes beyond your control. You did not announce yourself. Heaven did, and now earth is responding through conversations you cannot hear yet, but will soon see. The evidence of these meetings are not gossip. They are confirmation that your presence carries something necessary, something timely, something divinely placed. And as these discussions intensify, understand that they are not trying to figure out if you matter. They are trying to figure out how to move forward now that they realize you do. ChosenOne, as these conversations continue to expand and deepen, what they are producing is far more significant than surface-level acknowledgement, because these meetings are no longer about observation. They have shifted into decision-making, recalibration, and preparation. And this is where the unseen begins to take form in the visible realm, because when your name stays in circulation long enough, it stops being a topic and starts becoming a factor, and that is exactly what is happening. Now, decisions are being delayed because they cannot move forward without considering you. Plans that once felt solid are being questioned because something feels missing, and that missing element keeps pointing back to you. This is the stage where resistance turns into reconsideration, and reconsideration turns into restructuring, because your presence is not optional anymore. It has become necessary, even to those who once tried to overlook you. What these meetings are producing first is disruption of old agreements and outdated blueprints. People are revisiting choices they made without your involvement and realizing the outcomes did not align the way they expected. There is a quiet recognition forming that progress stalled because alignment was absent, and now they are tracing that absence back to you, not in guilt, but in realization. This is why policies are being re-examined, why structures are being questioned, why doors that were once sealed are quietly being unlocked again, because systems can sense when they are out of sync, and your name has become a reference point for correction. You represent a frequency that restores flow, and even those who do not understand spiritual language can feel when something shifts from forced to fluid. Another result of these meetings is the redirection of authority. Some people who once felt confident in their control are now realizing that influence does not always sit where titles suggest it. They are watching how outcomes align around you, how momentum follows you, how clarity emerges when your perspective is introduced. And this unsettles hierarchy because it exposes the difference between position and power. You are not being discussed because of rank. You are being discussed because of results. And results speak louder than credentials. This is why some of these conversations feel tense, because they challenge long-standing assumptions about who should lead, who should decide, and who should be trusted. And while you never set out to challenge anyone, your alignment naturally does. As these discussions evolve, what they are producing next is preparation. Space is being made, timelines are being adjusted, resources are being reconsidered, because inclusion requires accommodation, and accommodation signals intention. Some of these rooms are quietly preparing for your arrival without announcing it publicly. They are clearing internal resistance, aligning stakeholders, and building justification. Because when destiny enters a system, it often requires translation, and they are trying to explain to themselves why your name feels right, even when it disrupts their original plan. This is where you must understand that not all preparation is visible, not all invitations arrive immediately, but movement is still happening because preparation precedes manifestation. These meetings are also producing division of response. Some people are being drawn toward collaboration, while others feel exposed and defensive, and both reactions are revealing alignment. Those who are ready for growth recognize you as a solution. Those who cling to control perceive you as a threat, and neither reaction is your responsibility, because your assignment was never to manage reactions. It was to remain aligned, and alignment always polarizes spaces before it stabilizes them. This is why you may sense mixed signals around you. Sudden support alongside unexpected resistance. But do not misinterpret this, the presence of opposition does not cancel progress. It confirms impact, because what produces nothing threatens no one. Another outcome, forming beneath the surface, is urgency. The tone of these meetings is changing from casual consideration to time-sensitive action, because something about your involvement feels overdue. There is a sense that waiting too long could cost momentum, and that pressure is not human impatience. It is divine timing, intersecting with earthly schedules. They are realizing that what you carry cannot be postponed indefinitely, because the solutions connected to you have an appointed window, and that window is opening. Now, this is why conversations are becoming more frequent, why your name appears repeatedly in notes, messages, and follow-ups, because once timing aligns, hesitation becomes costly. What is also being produced is advocacy. People you did not expect are speaking on your behalf in rooms you have never entered. They are recommending you, defending your relevance, and pushing back against doubt, not because you asked them to, but because something about your life left an impression strong enough to compel action. This is how favor moves it, travels through people, through memory, through conviction. And these advocates may not even realize they are participating in something larger. They simply feel drawn to mention you, to insist on your consideration, to protect your name when it is questioned, and that advocacy is opening pathways you could not have opened yourself. As these meetings progress, they are producing spiritual alignment alongside practical outcomes. Some conversations are happening on earthly levels, while others are unfolding in prayer, in reflection, and in moments of quiet conviction. There are people wrestling internally with decisions about you feeling a nudge. They cannot explain an unrest when they exclude you in peace, when they consider your involvement. That internal shift is just as important as the external discussion, because decisions are often finalized long before they are announced and those internal confirmations are forming. Now you are being weighed not against others, but against assignment, and in that comparison, you stand out. These meetings are also producing correction of perception narratives that once framed you as invisible, replaceable, or peripheral, are being dismantled as evidence accumulates that your presence changes. Outcomes. People are reinterpreting your past silence, realizing it was not absence but preparation, realizing your delay was not failure but protection. And that shift in perception changes how they speak about you, how they approach you, and how they plan around you. Because once perception changes, access follows, and this is where doors begin to open quietly before they open publicly. What is being produced now is also accountability. Those who once dismissed you are confronting the results of that dismissal, and while some approach this with humility, others respond with defensiveness. But either way, acknowledgement is forming. They are recognizing that overlooking you created gaps, that ignoring your voice stalled progress. And this realization is pushing them toward correction, because systems seek stability, and stability requires alignment with purpose. You represent that alignment, whether they want to admit it or not. As these meetings continue to unfold, they are producing momentum that no single person controls. Ideas are being reshaped, timelines are accelerating, and decisions are stacking in a way that creates inevitability. This is when things begin to move quickly after a long period of stillness, because alignment once established compounds, and you may soon feel this acceleration, invitations arriving closer together, conversations, overlapping opportunities, presenting themselves simultaneously, and while this may feel sudden, it is not. It is the result of extended preparation happening out of sight. These discussions are also producing integration. Your role is no longer being viewed as external, optional, or supplementary. You are being integrated into the core of plans, into the foundation of strategy, because they have realized that adding you later will not work. You must be present from the beginning. And this shift from accessory to cornerstone is significant because it changes how decisions are made around you, how resources are allocated, and how timelines are built. You are no longer being considered as an enhancement. You are being recognized as essential. Another subtle but powerful result of these meetings is protection. As your name rises, there are also boundaries forming around you. Conversations are happening about how to support you, how to prevent burnout, how to ensure longevity. Because those who understand impact know that sustainability matters. They are not just planning your involvement, they are planning your environment, and that signals respect and foresight. This is part of divine favor, creating conditions that allow purpose to flourish, not just appear. As all of this unfolds, understand that these meetings are producing confirmation, not pressure. You are not being summoned to perform. You are being positioned to function. The weight you may feel is not expectation. It is alignment, settling into place. And while others scramble to adjust, you are simply being called to remain grounded because your steadiness is what allows these shifts to hold. Do not rush ahead of what is forming. Allow the preparation to complete, because what is being built now is meant to support you, not strain you. Ultimately, what these meetings are producing is inevitability. Your involvement is no longer a question of preference. It has become a requirement of progress. And once a system reaches that realization, Movement follows swiftly. Doors open. Conversations turn into invitations and plans become action. You are not entering this next phase as a newcomer. You are arriving as a solution already recognized and prepared for. And that is the power of divine alignment, working through unseen discussions to create visible transformation in your life and in the spaces you are called to impact. Chosen One. As all of this movement reaches its next phase, it naturally leads to the most important realization of all, which is your role in what is coming. Because these meetings were never meant to elevate conversation alone. They were designed to prepare the ground for your arrival. And this is where understanding becomes responsibility, not pressure, but clarity. Because you are not being positioned for visibility, you are being positioned for assignment. And that distinction matters. Your role is not to impress rooms, it is to shift them, not to fit into plans, but to fulfill purpose. And the reason these discussions have intensified is because the space is finally ready to receive what you carry. Your role in what is coming begins with recognition of who you are becoming, not who you were. When the silence started, you are no longer moving from obscurity into exposure. You are moving from preparation into precision. And that means the next season will require discernment more than effort, because opportunities will multiply. But not all invitations will be aligned. Some will come because people are curious, some because they are desperate, and some because they recognize assignment. Your responsibility is not to accept everything, but to remain obedient to what resonates with peace, not urgency, because divine momentum never needs panic, and the clarity you cultivated in hidden seasons will now guide you through visible ones. As your role unfolds, you will notice that your presence alone begins to stabilize. Environments you enter without announcement, without force, without explanation. People will feel clarity where there was confusion, direction, where there was stagnation and calm, where there was tension. And this will happen, not because you try to lead, but because alignment naturally orders chaos. Your role is to remain anchored in truth, because truth recalibrates systems simply by existing. And that is why you were prepared through endurance rather than exposure, because what is coming requires depth, not performance. Another part of your role is to speak when prompted and remain silent when not, because timing will matter more than volume. You will find that when you speak at the right moment, even briefly, it carries disproportionate weight and shifts outcomes, because the authority on your words was forged in obedience, not ambition. This is why you do not need to explain yourself extensively or over-justify your perspective. The rooms being prepared for you are already primed to listen. They have been discussing you long enough to recognize the value of your voice before they hear it. Your role will also involve holding space for transition, because when alignment enters a system, it often exposes imbalance, and some around you will struggle as things shift. Not everyone will celebrate the change. Not everyone will understand why you are central, and that is where maturity is required. You are not called to argue your relevance or defend your position. Your steadiness will be enough, because time will validate what conversation cannot. And as results follow, resistance will lose its voice. As you step into what is coming, you will notice that expectations placed on you feel different from pressure you experienced before. They will feel expansive rather than heavy, because they are aligned with your design. You are not being asked to become someone else. You are being invited to be fully who you already are, and that alignment creates ease. Even when responsibility increases, You will find that energy returns where exhaustion once lived, because purpose fuels stamina. In a way, striving never could. Your role is also to remain teachable, even as recognition grows, because favor can amplify quickly, but grounding sustains longevity. You are not elevated to dominate, but to serve, to bring clarity where confusion reigned, to bring integrity where shortcuts were normalized, and to bring faith into spaces that forgot it. That does not mean preaching. It means embodying it through consistency, through excellence, through restraint, and through courage to stand when silence is easier. Another critical aspect of your role is stewardship of influence. Influence is not measured by how many people see you, but by how many systems change, because you are present. And as your influence expands, you will need wisdom to manage access, because not everyone deserves proximity, and not every conversation requires your energy. Boundaries will become essential, not as walls, but as filters, ensuring that what flows through you remains aligned with purpose. You are not responsible for saving every space you enter. You are responsible for honoring the assignment attached to each one. As things unfold, you may also feel moments of disbelief when invitations arrive without struggle, when doors open without explanation, and when people reference conversations you were never part of. This is normal, because ease after endurance can feel unfamiliar, but do not question it. This is not luck. This is harvest seasons. Do not look like planting seasons, and you are allowed to receive without guilt. What you labored for in faith, the humility you cultivated earlier, will now protect you from confusion as favor increases. Your role in what is coming will require presence, not just attendance. You will be needed, not as a symbol, but as a contributor, because the value you bring cannot be substituted. Your insight, perspective, and discernment fill gaps that strategy alone cannot. And you may notice that when you step into conversations, solutions emerge quickly, not because you have all the answers, but because alignment invites clarity. Your role is not to dominate discussion, but to unlock it. There will also be moments when you are tested, not by lack, but by abundance, by choice, rather than scarcity. And this is where discernment is crucial, because abundance without alignment can distract just as much as lack without. Hope your role is to remain anchored to the why behind the what, because the assignment is bigger than individual wins. It is connected to legacy, impact, and generational shift, and keeping that perspective will guide your decisions when options multiply. As your name continues to echo and your presence becomes established, you will also find yourself mentoring without trying, leading without forcing, and influencing. Without campaigning, people will observe how you move, how you respond, how you remain grounded, and they will learn from it, even if they never say so. This is part of your role because leadership is often transferred through observation rather than instruction, and your consistency will become a reference point for others navigating their own alignment. Your role also involves trust, trusting that what is unfolding does not require your micromanagement, because the same divine orchestration that placed your name in rooms you never entered is capable of guiding outcomes you cannot predict. Surrender will remain part of the journey, not surrender to passivity, but surrender to timing, to process, and to guidance beyond logic. And this trust will free you from anxiety, allowing you to move with clarity rather than fear. As the season progresses, you may feel moments where you outgrow environments, relationships, or routines that once felt safe. This is not loss. It is transition, and your role is to honor endings with grace, rather than clinging out of familiarity, because growth often requires release, and what you release makes room for what is aligned. And this process will not always be comfortable, but it will be necessary, because you cannot carry future responsibility with past frameworks. Your role in what is coming is also to remain authentic, because authenticity is what allowed your name to carry weight in those unseen rooms. In the first place, you were discussed, not because you blended in, but because you stood firm in who you are, and that authenticity must remain intact as visibility increases. Do not dilute yourself to be palatable. Do not compromise depth to be accepted, because the spaces being prepared for you need what is real, not what is polished. Ultimately, your role is to walk forward without shrinking, because shrinking now would contradict everything that was prepared on your behalf. Humility does not mean hiding it, means honoring the source of what you carry while allowing it to be seen. You are not stepping into this next phase by accident. You were summoned, prepared, and positioned. And the meetings that happened without you were simply catching up to what was already decided. And as you move forward, understand that you are not being invited to the table to fill a seat. You are being asked to help shape the direction of the table itself, because what is coming requires your voice, your vision, and your presence, and you are ready. Not because you feel ready, but because alignment made you ready. And that is why your role now is not to question, but to step forward with confidence grounded in obedience, knowing that everything ahead is unfolding exactly as it should. Chosen one as everything comes together, and the movement that once felt distant now draws close. It is important to understand that what you have been witnessing is not build-up without purpose, but alignment, reaching completion, because the meetings, the silence, the shifts, and the pressure were never the destination. They were the signal, letting you know that the appointed time has arrived, and this is where peace replaces uncertainty, because clarity has been earned through endurance. You are not stepping into chaos, you are stepping into order, the kind of order that only forms after preparation has done its work. As this season closes and another opens, remember that the quiet you endured was not absence, it was positioning, and the echo of your name you are beginning to sense is confirmation that what was hidden has matured enough to be revealed. You did not miss your moment. You were preserved for it. And now what was discussed in private will begin to show itself in public ways, not all at once, but with steady, undeniable evidence. You will recognize it in how doors open, how conversations shift, how people approach you with a different tone and a deeper respect. Let this understanding ground you, rather than rush you, because you do not need to prove what has already been confirmed. Your responsibility now is simply to stay aligned, stay obedient, and stay present. As the unfolding continues, trust that what is moving toward you carries the same intention as what prepared you. And know that the discussions that once happened without your knowledge are now making way for manifestation. You are not behind. You are not late. You are exactly where you need to be, and what is coming next will affirm that every step, every delay, and every silent season had purpose, and now that purpose is ready to speak through you.